yang jembor zodan hingmi jang zoner manam jembor ngabdiat bakar dargam zando jermal dohor tomba turje jan la ki jamzar on jaror terni jangan za jawar tiki shenlo ilar profound and subtle dharma is rarely encountered in eon. Now we hear and follow it, may we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta before teaching. All right, today we will discuss the profound instruction on samatha. This profound instruction was composed by Mipam Rinpoche. This profound instruction on samatha is also very important. It is extremely important for our spiritual development. Regarding this teaching itself, I've been contemplating how to present it effectively, considering translating it with other Dharma texts. But then, I think it was last month, Khenpo Rinung sent me a Tibetan version of Profound Instruction on Samatha. He said that this one is really good. I checked it, though I read it before, but I didn't have a particularly deep impression of it. Then I felt that it was indeed very good. So this time I decided to translate it as well. Later I learned that this year Khenpo Tsultrim Lodro also taught it here at Larongar Academy. But at that time I just didn't have the time to attend his teachings. Nevertheless, I believe this instruction is truly essential for our practice. Many of us often enjoy meditation as it brings peace to us. This includes Westerners who, in particular, are especially fond of meditation. It's not just Buddhists or people who are religious or spiritual. In any way, many people meditate to relieve stress and deal with afflictive emotions. They simply sit in meditation to relax. Nowadays, meditation is also accepted and practiced in schools and in various workplaces. Nowadays in the West, when it comes to spiritual teaching, proselytizing is not permitted. But if you would like to offer meditation instruction, it is much wider accepted. This is also the case in various schools. When I venture out to teach, whether it's in schools, in companies, or in other groups in society, I often talk about meditation methods. The meditation here is a relatively simple and basic meditation that anyone can try. Samatha can also be translated as meditation. Within meditation, there are both still meditation and movement meditation for different temperaments and needs. Our practice of samatha, or calm abiding, is about settling the mind through stillness. This is often called samatha. As for vipaśyanā, it is about observing and realizing that the nature of one's mind is emptiness, and this is called special insight. The union of śamatha and vipaśyanā is central. Chan Buddhism, like Master Jize in the past, consider this integration as absolutely essential. In our Tibetan Buddhist tradition as well, whether in the earlier Nyingma or later schools, the integration of samatha and vipaśyanā is highly valued. So I believe that for all of us gathered here today, even if we spend our days listening, contemplating, discussing, and taking exams, this approach alone is not quite sufficient. The most important thing is we must practice regularly. If we cultivate calm abiding well, if we practice consistently, our minds will become capable. If the mind is capable, then any Dharma practice becomes more accessible and effective. So this practice offers several distinct benefits and virtuous qualities. The first benefit is that the mind becomes capable and pliable, because sometimes we see in Theravada Buddhism or among Chan masters from other Buddhist traditions, they often observe their own minds. For this reason, no matter what situation they are in, their minds remain remarkably peaceful. With a calm mind, their entire demeanor naturally radiates dignity and presence. Their deportment is very dignified. The second aspect is, if we practice meditation regularly, our physical bodies also naturally become well balanced and harmonious. During the day, many illnesses will naturally stay away from us. At night, for reasons such as physical health and mental health and overall well-being, we won't have nightmares and we'll sleep very comfortably. There is this benefit. And thirdly, through consistent meditation, many of the obvious and subtle sufferings and persistent afflictions deeply within our own mind streams will gradually decrease and even be eradicated at the root. This is possible. If we meditate regularly, you won't think about all kinds of chaotic and messy worldly matters. You no longer subject your body and mind to states of constant fear, anxiety, or suffering. These states simply cease. Thus, experienced practitioners, especially those Chan masters who practice in the remote mountains, remain unaffected by the disturbances of worldly life, by the overwhelming and relentless chaos that would disturb and unsettle their minds. Meditation is therefore immensely beneficial, allowing practitioners to find peace and freedom from suffering. Moreover, our regular meditation practice is beneficial for our study and contemplation of the teachings. Concentration brings wisdom. Discipline leads to concentration. Concentration leads to wisdom. Lacking discipline, the mind struggles to settle into a state of stable concentration. But if the mind becomes calm through discipline, whatever subject you choose to focus on, you will effortlessly comprehend both its depth and breadth with clarity. Why are some people good at Dharma teachings? Because their meditation is excellent. When the meditation practice is strong and consistent, wherever mind focuses, it becomes penetrating. If your minds aren't capable, then while listening to teachers, your minds tend to wander in random thoughts. Even when reading texts, your minds also wander all over the place. How could you possibly focus on the meaning in the text? If you are not focused, then wisdom also simply cannot arise. So I think that meditation, without a doubt, is indeed a very important and valuable practice. If we ourselves do not meditate, even if Dharma teachers teach lifelong, when afflictions arise in daily life, in our everyday experiences, we still won't be able to counteract or deal with them. And when suffering comes, we can't handle it. Because the Dharma is external, while the mind is internal, creating a separation between the teachings and our mind. Dharma is theory, while mind continues its habit. If the mind and the Dharma are disconnected, how could the teachings have a transformative effect? You have an integrated practice into your own mind stream. Therefore, in daily life, we must value both study and contemplation alongside practice. Both the 5 great treatises and Vajrayana need studying. Without study, if we merely sit all day, unless our practice is exceptionally advanced, we are wasting our precious time. It will not work. But what's even more important is that we must take Dhamma received and put it into actual practice in our actions. This is extremely important. Regarding the practice of samatha or calm abiding, whether it's in the Sutrayana or Vajrayana, in the sutras, tantras, or treatises, numerous methods are presented. There are also some meditation practices in Han region. Speaking broadly of this, śamatha is a form of meditation. In Han region, most meditation practices focus on calm abiding. This is meditation. In fact, the practice of calm abiding is essentially about pacifying all discursive thoughts and abiding in a state of tranquil stillness. This is samatha practice. These methods are widely instructed in Theravada, like the 4 foundations of mindfulness and breath meditation. Then in Tibetan Buddhism, we actually have the 9 distinct stages of resting the mind. His Holiness also gave these instructions. They're taught in Longchenpa's 3 states of rest. And in Mipham Rinpoche's Treasury of Luminosity and various teachings, these methods are also addressed. The practices are stated in the 8th chapter of The Way of the Bodhisattva. This should be familiar to you. Actually, the 9 stages of resting the mind may sound simple when described, but each stage is closely linked to the next developing systematically. Settle the mind first, then continuously abide, then repeated abiding, progressing step by step without interruption. Eventually, one attains single-pointedness. At that point, within the desire realm, it is the highest form of mind. In the state of realization, one can directly cultivate the 4 dhyanas above it, as well as various miraculous powers. It is possible through samatha. If one can't get single-pointedness in the desire realm, then it becomes difficult to develop higher realizations, manifest various qualities and merits. That is why our predecessors, these great masters, placed emphasis on this foundation. Many teachers advise practicing meditation whenever we have available time in our daily lives. Regarding the practice of samatha in treatises by Asanga Bodhisattva and Venerable Kamalashila, there are also a number of different methods of practice, each with its own unique approach. Skeleton meditation needs samatha with mind focusing on skeleton. Contemplating impermanence, whether gross or subtle impermanence, one can practice calm abiding through. Furthermore, contemplating emptiness is also a kind of practice of calm abiding by focusing exclusively. Exoteric and esoteric teachings often mention meditating on Buddha images. For example, visualizing Shakyamuni Buddha or Medicine Buddha and maintaining focus. This kind of single-pointed meditation method also exists. There is also the practice of visualizing any object in front of oneself, whether it's a piece of wood, any kind of cup, or any other simple item. Placing this object in your field of vision and maintaining single-pointed focus. This method is also certainly acceptable. In the practice we are discussing today, omniscient Mipham Rinpoche teaches calm abiding by observing the mind with the mind. As I mentioned earlier, there are many types of this practice in stages of the path to enlightenment in the Yogacarabhumi Shastra and in Kamalashila's 3 stages of meditation with their higher, middle, and lower levels of practice. Approaches to samatha are discussed. There are indeed numerous kinds of methods for developing calm abiding. What Mipham Rinpoche shares is using the mind to observe itself for calm abiding. This is significant. Among all samatha methods, this should be a fundamental practice. Mipham Rinpoche's wisdom is truly unfathomable, extraordinary, and incomparable. Therefore, the teachings he has distilled contain pith instructions and carry blessings of lineage. They are profound. I hope everyone present here today. During these 2 sessions, we'll learn how to practice samatha. Of course, the practice has not yet reached the level of Dzogchen or Mahamudra, which are the highest transcending common methods. Many previous great masters, after completing the 500,000 preliminary practices and before studying Vajrayana, would spend 2 or 3 years practicing samatha. Once the mind had settled, they would then begin to enter into Madhyamaka, examining the nature of the mind, or practicing Dzogchen or Mahamudra. For those with sharp faculties, they might begin with Dzogchen without necessarily following the gradual progression of samatha and insight meditation. This process is not necessary. However, for most of us, if without faculty for direct Dzogchen, there may still be some distance to cover in our practice. In that case, in our current practice, it is best if we can first settle our minds. If the mind can settle, all other spiritual practices become more accessible and easier. Whether practicing Guru Padmasambhava sadhana or practicing the Dzogchen teachings of Manjushri or whatever yidam we practice daily, having a mind that has received proper training makes a tremendous difference. It's like trying to ride a wild horse to get somewhere. There's simply no way. It's really quite difficult most of the time to reach the destination you want to get to. But if you first train this wild horse and then try to ride it, it will be obedient. Wherever we want to go, it will carry us there. This is the effect it can have. If we don't do this, it gets very difficult. So it's very important our mind is obedient at all times. This is crucial. In terms of our mind, since beginnerless time, it is like a monkey or lightning, which is extremely mischievous. It's not easy to be obedient. But through our own practice, just like an elephant trainer who uses an iron hook to gradually train the elephant, even elephants can be tamed. In the same way, our mind can be trained using 9 stages of mental development. If we gradually train it through mindfulness and awareness, then soon the mind will become capable. This type of practice is actually very important for practitioners, especially in the beginning. Some people lacking proper instruction may practice inappropriately, like jumping straight into the advanced state of the great perfection, or remaining constantly in the state of alaya consciousness. But in fact, this is not as simple as it seems. There may still actually be some deviations along the path. Dzogchen isn't a deviation, but if one become indulging in the alaya consciousness, the accomplished practitioners of the past tended to discourage this. When we're discussing His Holiness's the commentary on direct pointing to mind nature, there are many essential instructions presented, which I believe everyone should remember clearly and keep in mind. Next, let's first talk about it literally. Let's look at the principle on a literal level. I sincerely hope all the Dharma teachers and practitioners here, or if you all have time, it's best if you can explain it literally. See if you're able to guide others or offer support in understanding. Later, if we teach meditation to others, this kind of meditation, whether in China or the West, is highly popular and widely accepted in many places. But people generally don't know how to meditate, which makes it quite challenging for them. So by relying on the Dharma teachings, we can teach others how to meditate correctly. When I translated this text, at first I used 7 Tibetan words to translate it. But in that case, it seemed that some of the words didn't feel fully accurate. So I changed it to 5 words for clarity. But even with 5 words, still felt it's difficult to understand. When I first read it myself, without referencing the Tibetan, some passages were unclear. So perhaps there are still a few words inside that need to be revised, including the punctuation marks. Now, let's first go through it. So let's go through it together, literally as a first step. We'll begin with shamatha practice. Shamatha is a method for settling the mind. Homage to Manjushri Bodhisattva. This homage is offered by Mipam Rinpoche. As we all know from this text, if you focus mind, you'll come to achieve shamatha, and gradually insight into the nature of things will dawn. First, through the method of meditation. In particular, we use our own mind to observe itself. In this careful way, gradually, through sustained practice and awareness, we first achieve the foundational state of shamatha. The result of practicing shamatha meditation is that over time, both the mind and the body become more stable and capable, and the mind becomes fully focused. Wherever you direct your focus, it obeys no matter if, for example, you want to contemplate impermanence. Until you rise from your seat, you can remain in that state of contemplation. Or if you contemplate the skeleton, emptiness, or luminosity, your mind abides in whatever scope you initially set. Your mind will not wander away from it. This is shamatha. So, as we often say about the mind, whether you decide to let it rest for a bit or simply allow it to settle on its own, the result will ultimately be the same. Or let it enter meditative absorption, and so on. All of these are possible. If you have established a foundation of shamatha, then gradually insight vipaśyanā can arise. Shamatha is resting the mind repeatedly. The 9 stages of settling the mind are all about resting. There's no need for analytical or alternating meditations. There's truly nothing like that, just continuous, peaceful resting. Even amidst conceptual thoughts, you let the mind rest. When feelings of emptiness arise, let the mind rest. At any time, you just let it stay put, let it stop, This is one method of shamatha in meditation. Insight vipaśyanā doesn't need resting mind. Practiced it through insight. It's resting or insight meditation. Mipham Rinpoche explains this in the Lamp of Certainty. Resting meditation is the method used prior to shamatha. Insight meditation means insight vipaśyanā. Insight is cultivated through investigation and analysis. We recognize the true nature of mind, or the emptiness of all phenomena. This is the practice of insight vipaśyanā. Gradually, we truly realize the view of selflessness and emptiness. This is the view of insight. The previous sentence may need to be revised for greater clarity. Settle your clear, brilliant awareness in the empty center of your heart. In the quiet, empty heart, there is a clear and vivid awareness. Within the heart of emptiness, there is a mind that is distinctly clear and aware. Awareness gathered inward abideth. This is what it means. This specific technique is called the mind observing the mind in meditation. Within the heart of emptiness, there is a vivid and clear awareness gathered inward called the mind observing the mind. Aren't we able to achieve calm abiding through observing the mind? So what does it mean to observe the mind? In reality, within our earthly body, there is the material, functioning physical heart. We visualize the heart empty. Then, in this empty heart, it is filled with flesh. But when we visualize, visualization is for cultivation. We can visualize anything we want. And at this point, we take our own consciousness into a state of vivid clarity. Clarity means a pure, clear mind. Not merely emptiness, nor is it like an especially bright fluorescent light, like a light bulb, but it is not lacking in luminosity. This clear awareness abides inwardly. It is not scattered outward. It does not become attached to pleasurable objects, nor does it develop aversion, nor aversion or hatred toward unpleasant things. It's not like that. This clear and luminous awareness is gently drawn inward and abides at ease, drawn inward and abides like this, not scattered outward, but gathered within and abiding. This is the mind observing the mind. Actually, when we use the mind to observe the mind, those who have never studied Buddhism may find this concept vague. What does the mind observing the mind mean? What does it mean to know one's true face, or what it means to be clear and aware? Many new terms are unfamiliar, but this is perfectly understandable. The Lamp for the Path of Certainty says that some sectarian terms are difficult to grasp even after hundreds of eons, and without the right karma and merit from past lives, it is hard. So it's understandable that people don't understand these terms. But here we are going to contemplate calm abiding, or in other words, how to meditate. Everyone, imagine within your own body and a heart of emptiness. And in the emptiness heart, there is a mind that is distinctly clear and aware. Let this awareness not scatter outward anymore. It is not like a light bulb that is always on, nor like street lamps that radiate outward. Instead, it is a very clear, inwardly gathered awareness. Let it settle and abide. When you let it settle in this way, this is called the mind, observing the mind. Actually, there are two minds, but in practice, it is possible to contemplate in this manner. For one person, one cannot be both the observer and the observed. Having two mind zone, observing the other, does not truly exist. But when we discuss practice from inner clarity's perspective, the mind observes the mind, we can say in this way. We often say, the mind observes the mind. Use your mind to observe your mind. In conventional terms, this is acceptable. Before we perform detailed analysis, mind observing mind is also valid. It seems, when we haven't examined it closely, it's like the self-awareness discussed in Madhyamaka philosophy. People have self-awareness. You know yourself that you have a mind. You know yourself what you have done in the past. You know what you were really thinking in the previous moment. You know what you are really doing and thinking. This is completely clear. So it's like this. Here as well, there is a mind that is self-aware and self-illuminating. But this mind, unlike usual, we don't let it scatter outward. In the heart of your body, which beats every moment, constantly and tirelessly. Visualize a clear mind. Instead of letting it scatter outward, we let it settle and stay there. So in Vajrayana practice, we often use mind, observing the mind. Mifram Rinpoche has a teaching called the old dog spits gold. In that text, it says observing 100 external phenomena is not as good as observing one internal phenomenon. Observing 100 external phenomena is not as beneficial as turning inward. To observe the mind itself, this is the most supreme. I believe this was quoted by His Holiness in the direct pointing to mind nature, maybe have been quoted before in that text or another one. So when we observe the external world, the mountains, rivers, and earth, what is the current international situation in the world today? Of course, you can observe these things, but it is still better to observe your own mind. What are my thoughts and intentions like? What is the true nature of my mind? This is actually very important for practitioners. We should observe this regularly. Of course, if you meditate in this way of abiding, it may require high achievement, and only those who practice meditation can do it. For those who do not practice meditation, we ordinary worldly people have never really observed our own mind. When greed, anger, or other emotions arise, they just let them arise as they please and never thought of it. They wonder, why observe my mind? That's how they are. But as Buddhists, for us, especially for those of us who wish to achieve realization through practice, it is truly necessary to understand our own minds. This is absolutely extremely, extremely important. Next, what exactly is the process of observing the mind like? Observe the mind. If you can't find it, you can't find the object of observation. However, if you say the mind exists, it must be nothing other than inside the heart. After object of observation, no punctuation. These 4 lines can be taken together. What is it like when we observe the mind? When observing the mind, we simply cannot find what is called the object of observation. Of course, when we observe our own mind, whether the essence of the mind is white or red, whether it's the color or the shape, or whether the mind is substantial or insubstantial, or where exactly the mind is physically located within the body specifically, and so on. When you use the mind to observe your own mind, you simply cannot arrive at any so-called definite conclusion. You simply cannot find such a definite mind at all. When practicing calm abiding, there's really no need to search so meticulously at all. Is my mind white? Just like when we discuss Dzogchen teachings, is it red, square, or triangular? Or is the mind in the head or in the feet somewhere? You don't need to be so. In a more general sense, you just know that the mind exists. But if the mind exists, apart from the heart, there isn't anywhere else. Having general understanding is enough. When we practice shamatha, this point is still very important. The mind cannot find a so-called object to focus on. However, if you insist that the so-called mind exists, then apart from the heart, there's really nothing else. Of course, nowadays, some people think maybe the mind exists in the brain. We can say that, in fact, the true nature of the mind, which is ultimately does not exist. Conventionally, there is a mind, but this mind is not actually in the brain, nor is it in the feet. If there is a mind, then it must undoubtedly be still in the heart. Even in conventional appearances, we think this way, and everyone else obviously thinks so too. You say, keep it in your heart. I'll remember it in my heart. We pat our chest over the heart when we say this. All right, I'll remember it in my heart. In daily life, when you remember something in your heart, you don't say, I'll remember it in my brain. It's not called remembering in the brain, nor do you remember it in your feet, nor in your own hands. It won't be remembered in your ears. Whenever we do anything, you have to remember it in your heart. Everyone has this habit. It's something we all share. What we remember in our hearts, but does the heart actually really contain the mind? It's not as if it's always there inside. Actually, in fact, traditionally speaking, then in general, there is a certain connection between the physical heart and the mind. Even in nowadays in the world, people who have had heart transplants, and I used to be a person which is a person who particularly liked singing, and then simply their heart has been placed into another person's body, then naturally, well, that person develops a habit of liking singing. Some cases are even successful. For example, pig hearts or hearts from other animals have also been transplanted. In such cases, the recipient continues to have those habits, including eating unclean food. Examples. So although our heart is just a piece of flesh, it is still in some way always connected to our own inner foolishness or intelligence, in a sense, or the mindset that they really prefer. There is a certain connection. Of course, our brain, in fact, as well, nowadays, when many people analyze it, they also find it is related to our mind. For example, when there are brain problems, the mind becomes confused or even deranged. This also happens. Of course, we can say that our heart and our brain, those are important bodily organs. So the feelings of the mind are directly or indirectly connected to them in some way. But we can't say that the brain is the mind. Otherwise, anyone with a brain essentially should have consciousness. We can say having a heart has a mind. If that were the case, then the heart of a dead person still exists. So in this particular context, what we actually refer to as the mind, Mipam Rinpoche also said that, however, if we admit that the mind exists, then apart from the heart, it's impossible for our intestines to contain the mind, or for our thighs to contain the mind, or that other parts of our body somehow have the mind. No one would say that. Generally speaking, in general, if we are talking about the mind or mental processes, we often say that a person's mind is in the heart or something like that. There are such sayings. So you need to understand whenever we talk about the mind, as we often do, there's no need to analyze the mind in detail. At this point, just let it rest there for a while and do not let the conceptual thoughts to disturb. The point is, when we practice calm abiding, we first need to know. I may be a bit verbose, but I hope that through this time, many people will generally be able to meditate a little. This meditation, many of us have practiced it before, but some people may be too impatient, always contemplating the primordial purity of Dzogchen. Some may only entirely focus on the awareness detailed, described in the Treasury of the Dhammadhatu, which is different from calm abiding meditation. So this meditation method, for people who haven't received empowerments, ordinary people, it's also fine to let them practice it. We don't necessarily need to use verse form. We can simply explain it using these principles. In that case, they can also simply accept it. So our meditation and calm abiding are actually just concentration. As mentioned in the treatise on the meaning of the Mahayana, the mind is fixed on one object and is free from distraction. This is concentration. The mind rests on one object, completely free from all distraction and discursive mental thoughts. This is called concentration in scientific terms. This concentration is the same as calm abiding mentioned here. To achieve such concentration, when we generally enter concentration, we ourselves don't think, my mind is now entering concentration inside my brain. We actually don't have such a concept. When I want to focus, the mind thinks of nothing, and roughly it might feel like it's in the heart, settling there, thinking in that way. So next, how does it settle? When thoughts or distractions arise, observe their source and abide simultaneously. Remain calm and do not search for the mind. Do not look for where it exists or does not exist. It is enough just to let the mind abide. Below, the true method of calm abiding is this. We will have all kinds of different thoughts and mental movements. When these thoughts arise, observe their source. You don't need to observe in great detail. You simply notice various conceptual thoughts, greed, delusion, hatred. At such times, simply observe them. Wasn't there just various mental movements? What is their source? Or the source of these thoughts is nothing but the mind itself. Regarding the mind, I observe this mind, observe its source means this. And at the same time, I simply abide there. For example, when you consider various things today, the source of all these things is the mind. So just let the mind abide calmly and at ease. It's nothing else. At this time, there's no need to search for the origins or details of the mind. You don't need to examine its nature. nor do you need to look for whether it actually has a place to reside. Is it above the body or below the body? No, it's not like that. Roughly, you know, there is this mind within your heart. If your mind abides, that's enough. Anyway, there is a mind abiding there. It doesn't matter where it abides, there's no need to analyze it. When we meditate, some people keep analyzing, just like in the ancient and revered Prajnaparamita Sutra, past mind cannot be grasped, future mind cannot be grasped, present mind cannot be grasped. They examine the mind across these three times. Then what is the mind's origin? Where does it abide and where it go? Is the essence of the mind external or internal? There are so many aspects. You don't need to incite it like that. All thoughts and intentions simply arise from one original mind ultimately. Recognizing mind, settle mind itself. At this point, there's no need to analyze what the mind actually is. You don't need to examine it too meticulously. Where exactly is the mind? Where does it reside? No need those observations. As long as there is a mind that abides, there is a mind that simply abides. This is probably something that any of us can do quite easily, right? When practicing calm abiding, there's no need to be especially observant. If you continue to observe further, then it either turns into Dzogchen. For example, if there is a mind, is the mind's essence luminous? Is it emptiness or pervading compassion? If you observe in this way, no need to be meticulous. People in the world today are particularly suited to be taught about the emptiness of essence and luminosity of nature, but they definitely can't manage it. If you let them know that you have an inner mind, when thoughts and intentions arise, the root is the mind. You don't need to search for this mind. What exactly is it? No need to seek it from anywhere. As long as there is a mind, just let this mind settle down and take care of it. And this is a method of practice. This is the practice of shamatha. Indeed, the mind abides within, resting peacefully on its place, and there is simply no need for any other way to abide within. This kind of heart, the true heart, is absolutely and without a doubt in the body. This mind within your own body, let it rest peacefully on its own couch, the couch of the heart. In the heart center, you don't need to add many discriminating thoughts to this mind. You don't have to question what this mind is. There's no need for that. As long as it's within the body itself, whether that's position above or below, as long as it has a place somewhere in the body, the mind's true home is on the alaya consciousness. As for the alaya, everything external, including the five sense consciousnesses, originates from alaya. The root of all our discriminating thoughts is also the alaya. When we sleep at night, first the five external senses merge into the alaya, then alaya merges into dharmadhatu luminosity. There is such a practice. Actually, if you let this restless mind rest calmly and peacefully, this is the way for the mind to abide. Nothing else is needed at all at that time. If your mind is settled here, that's totally enough. So our general calm abiding meditation doesn't need to meticulously observe all kinds of colors. Just practicing, as we've discussed here, is sufficient. Some people may hope, but their discriminating thoughts are strong. They observe this for a while, then that for a while. None of these is needed. All of those have already become other kinds of meditation methods entirely. What about discriminating thoughts? What should I do? There are any kind of arising thoughts, whether luminosity or emptiness. Do your best to let the mind abide in the present moment. Isn't it stated in the Avatamsaka Sutra, the mind is neither inside nor outside nor anywhere at all? Actually, when you truly observe the mind, there is no inside or outside. Mind is nothing substantial. Through grasping phenomena appear, mind is actually a kind of grasping. If there's no grasping, there's quiescence and cessation. If this mind does not go searching for anything, does not follow after things, does not investigate, as long as there is even a little bit of attention, after noting this will be explained further below. Mipham Rinpoche's method is very important. As long as your mind does not engage in too much unnecessary negative discrimination thoughts anymore. and lets itself rest on its own bed. This method settles mind as calm abiding. Other pith instructions and techniques, all those other practice methods are unnecessary. To use an analogy to explain this, it's like sunlight shining on water, beautiful ripples sparkling like diamonds. When thoughts arise and move swiftly, they are indeed difficult to block or stop. Just as when beautiful golden sunlight peacefully shines on water, there is still a kind of sparkling radiance and ripples. They are present. This beautiful phenomenon, in fact, is just like our mind, really. Our mind is like this. No matter when, it always has a very obvious, there is always an unceasing, constantly ongoing and persistent arising of quick thoughts. It constantly generates, especially quick thoughts, thinking about this for a moment, then that everyone experiences this. Some people think their karmic obstacles are too heavy. I've relied on teachers for so many years, yet settling my mind for 10 minutes is still very difficult. Actually, this is basically the same for all ordinary people. Anyone who hasn't trained their mind is like this. Don't be discouraged by this. I'm not good enough. I must have absolutely no hope now. There's no need to worry about this. Everyone experiences it. It's like when sunlight shines on water. The water surface glimmers and moves constantly, shimmering. Our minds are also continuously changing and constantly shifting, experiencing subtle thoughts and sometimes more obvious thoughts. Whenever these thoughts keep arising, it's a bit difficult for us to block them out immediately. But there's no need to block them out either. In many contemplative spiritual practices, during cultivation, some natural thoughts don't need to be blocked. Of course, if your level is higher, wasn't Dromtonpa talking with the great enlightened master Atisha? Dromtonpa asked what to do if discriminating thought arises. Atisha replied, it's fine. This is the wisdom of the Dharmakaya. Then he asked, what about when a second unwanted discriminating thought arises? Atisha replied, that is a second kind of Dharmakaya wisdom. What if 100 such thoughts keep arising? Atisha said, that's 100 Dharmakayas. If we have the right understanding, these arising thoughts are inseparable from the wisdom of the Dharmakaya. It is like this. But if we don't have that understanding, ordinary greed is just greed. It's not called Dharmakaya wisdom, ordinary anger and discriminating thoughts. And we should know that these are not Dharmakaya wisdom. This is what everyone should know. If we have the right understanding, then indeed, these thoughts will absolutely not cause you any harm whatsoever. So with thoughts like these, if we try to block them together, it is indeed difficult to have no arising thoughts at all. Is it difficult? For those who have practiced meditation for many years, it's difficult at first, but some eventually succeed. However, for some people, there are also dangerous deviations from the path. In the past, some masters' disciples, which is including Dujom Rinpoche and Yiko Lama, some of their disciples did not need to speak or eat for a long time and could continue to remain in deep meditative absorption for several consecutive months at a time. In the history of Tibetan esoteric Buddhism, it seems that Shirajaba was always meditating. There were bird nests and spider webs, all completely tangled and old in his hair, but he still remained in meditative absorption and did not come out of it. Sometimes in Hinuna practice, some people fall into a kind of dull tranquility. This tranquility is of alaya storehouse consciousness. In fact, this is not really very good, actually. So some masters in the past tried to stop this, telling them not to continue practicing. Some people may even practice with deviation, always remaining in dull tranquility, and tell them to temporarily stop practicing for a long time, not to meditate for now. Such situations have occurred. Here it means that when we are practicing, if there is such a subtle discriminating thought, you don't need to worry about it too much. It's just like a softly glimmering light in the water. like shimmering, flickering movement on the surface. Discriminating thoughts are bound to arise. It's very hard to stop them. If you want to stop them, what is the best method? It is to let the mind naturally settle down. When mind is still, clarity appears. In this way, without stirring thoughts, the mind abides calmly at its source. This is true calm abiding practice. It's like a bottle of water actually. There is turbidity on the surface of the water. When there is turbidity, if you keep stirring it, it will never become clear. If you look at water and turbidity by their very nature, they are never truly one and the same. Water consists of water particles, while turbidity has earth particles or other impure particles. These two types of particles can never truly, really become one. But if, for example, you want the pure, clear water to appear all by itself on its own, then the only way is to stop disturbing the water and let it settle naturally. Then gradually the particles of earth in the water, being heavier, will settle while the lighter water particles remain. After they settle, the water eventually becomes clear. These tiny particles inside gradually sink completely down. This is just like our mind always active. If we keep stirring it up all the time, in fact, the true nature of our mind and the nature of our discursive thoughts are completely different. One is pure, the other is impure. This originally pure alaya consciousness, dharmakaya essence, if we gradually let it settle, allowing these persistent defiled afflictions and discursive thoughts to gradually clear, just like clouds dispersing in the sky, they will gradually disappear. At that point, the alaya consciousness manifests as the wisdom of the great perfect mirror. This is no different from the relationship between water and dust. So if it is unmoving, still, calm, tranquil water, just resting there, just like the ripples on the surface before, the light clearly shows, but it remains unmoved, not stirring at all. There isn't even the slightest breeze. Although there may be some light on the water's surface, this light is basically completely absent. Of course, if we observe with subtle wisdom, any concentration still has movement. Subtle meditative states in the desire realm still have a kind of movement in them, and this is explained in the higher Abhidhamma. That's what it says as well. So by the same reasoning, when our mind settles down and there are no arising thoughts, and we clearly understand the true source of all discursive thoughts, the source is mind. Apart from this, there is no other source. These discriminating thoughts arise from mind, and when the mind calmly abides, this is shamatha. So when we practice shamatha, there's absolutely no immediate need for many extra complicated techniques or methods. Everyone simply lets the mind gradually and gently settle completely down. Don't follow after all those discursive thoughts and leave it alone. Recognize there is a mind. This mind, not the physical heart, has no existence elsewhere. Then at such a time, just give a little attention within the mind and let it settle down. This is what is called simply and calmly abiding at this stage. This way of abiding, like the 9 stages of mental abiding, how do we describe it? Rely on not forgetting the true nature and let mindfulness continue uninterrupted. When contemplating, you need genuine awareness and constant mindfulness that doesn't forget the true nature. 2 obstacles to meditative concentration are dullness and agitation. We need to know agitation is when the mind scatters outward. The other is dullness, when the mind sinks inward, becoming dim and unaware. This is, without a doubt, the biggest and most difficult obstacle that has ever been encountered. Some guides distinguish between the different types of coarse agitation and subtle agitation, as well as coarse dullness and subtle dullness. For example, with coarse agitation, you completely lose connection with the object of focus. For instance, when I am actively observing the scattered mind, while abiding, I am not observing mind at all. Right now, my mind is deeply focused on external things. I suppose to observe mind, but while observing my mind, I watch colorful rainbows and drifting clouds becoming attached to these external things. This is called coarse agitation. Then subtle agitation. Although I haven't left the object, it seems that I'm not fully focused either. I, the mind observer, don't rest completely because there's still subtle discursive thoughts arising. If it's coarse dullness, that's almost like falling asleep and becoming completely unconscious and totally disconnected from reality. I'm supposed to watch the mind, but I end up in a state of stupor or deep sleep, completely leaving your meditation object. If it's more subtle and although I haven't fully left, you're also not truly abiding on it completely either. When practicing calm abiding meditation, many great masters of the past have also talked about this. When you are meditating, although you shouldn't have a clear attachment to form, your mind should still be in a relatively distinct, clear and distinct mental state. If we put it into words, maybe like this, for example, when I visualize a Buddha image, when I focus on the Buddha image, it's not like I'm seeing the image in dullness, nor am I thinking externally in a clear or scattered way. It's not like that. But the Buddha image as my meditation object keeps continuously present. While being focused, my own mind should be very clear and lucid. It should not be in a vague or blurry state. When practicing calm abiding or insight meditation, this is crucial. Experienced practitioners, no matter what they are meditating on, do it very efficiently. Whatever they focus on, they observe it with complete clarity. The mind keeps focused and doesn't fall into dullness, yet they maintain perfect clarity. If you can maintain this clarity in your observation, the longer you sustain it, the better the results will be. Your mind will become fully capable. This method is very effective indeed. As mentioned earlier, there are in fact two significant challenges during meditation. One is dullness and the other is agitation. It is especially important to pay very close and careful attention to these two particular items. There are two remedies for these issues. One is mindfulness, one is awareness. Mindfulness and awareness are essential. In the way of bodhisattva, mindfulness and awareness are important in developing bodhicitta. In samatha practice, mindfulness and awareness are crucial. So, how to observe? By using mindfulness that does not forget the true nature, it means that the continuity of mindfulness and clear awareness should not be interrupted. When using the mind to observe the mind, do not forget your own state at all times. This is we call the practice of mindfulness. As for awareness, it means frequently examining yourself. This observation is not an obvious, discriminating or conceptual thought. Otherwise, once arising an obvious thought, the state of calm abiding you just had will be lost. It can't exist at all. But as long as you do not misplace it or forget about it under any circumstances, there is still a kind of guarding present. And this mind is completely acceptable. For example, when our eyes are looking straight ahead, although not looking to the sides, you are aware of both sides. You will notice what the things are on the both sides. When I look at the center, I can thoroughly keep watch over both sides at all times. So when I observe my own mind, even for just a moment, for example, when I am observing a Buddha image, one is mindfulness, not forgetting the image, but without obvious thought. At the same time, while not forgetting, it is important to remember to observe whether my observation is correct or not. For instance, it's like a person having two cameras. One is for his main focus, and the other is for everything else, which should also be recorded right now. It should be possible. These two cameras, in particular, can be managed and handled by one person. They can be handled properly with the right approach. In the same way, when we observe whether our mind is settled, while being settled, one aspect is the mindfulness of not forgetting, and the other is awareness of observing. These two are the main methods that you will use for your daily practice. No matter what practice, they are crucial. It's the same when visualizing a Buddha image or when observing Guru Rinpoche's image. When practicing refuge, mindfulness and awareness are crucial. If you don't know how to observe in this way, then practice becomes very difficult. So while maintaining these two without interruption, the mind abides in emptiness and luminosity. It abides in the arising of thoughts, remaining its original nature. It abides in what arises in that what is called clarity, emptiness, and movement. You don't need a period at the end here, just a comma is more proper. Knowing but without following, rest for a moment in your ordinary mind. With long-term practice, discursive thoughts and conceptual distinctions will be cast off to their original ground. That's all verses that we need to discuss today. As I just mentioned just now, as long as you remain with proper mindfulness and awareness without distraction, when you observe your own mind, sometimes you might feel that it already seems spacious and clear, that it has already become emptiness. Because you are using the mind to observe the mind at this time, oh, it seems like my mind is now in a state where everything is completely empty, in a spacious state of emptiness. At this point, you don't need to worry, my mind has gone into emptiness. Don't try to pull it back immediately. There's no need. Just notice that it's there for now and let it abide naturally in that emptiness. It's like how some elders watch over children. Some kids might run off to play in the pond for a while, then go play by the riverbank for a while, then play in the garden. Soon he was riding an elephant or ride on a small fluffy little yak and so on, just like that. At such times, the elder doesn't get particularly attached or say, hey, don't go there, come back, come back. There's really nothing like that. As long as the child is not lost and the child is still within their sight, that's okay. Samatha is like this. When you just observe your own mind, sometimes it may be in a state of emptiness, open and clear, and you just let your mind rest there, simply allowing yourself to pause. And sometimes it seems as if the mind is distinctly clear, a luminous state. This luminosity is not the light of Tathagata Garbha. The emptiness is not the emptiness described in Madhyamaka. Whether you are in a state of emptiness or in a true state of clarity, just let your mind gently rest in that peaceful and calm state of clarity. If a thought perhaps arises in your mind and you notice that originally your mind was at rest, but now you see that your mind is becoming active again, then let it rest within that activity of thought. You don't need to think, I can't let thoughts arise, or I must pull myself back to the state. Just rest in thought. Sometimes there is a kind of majestic, innate, naked quality, nakedness here. It's not the high level of naked awareness in Dzogchen. It's not that kind of utterly naked awareness. Here, majestic and innate refer to something that is, in other words, clearer and more singular in nature. The mind itself has an original state, which is a natural state of mind itself. At this time, just simply rest there for a moment as well. Abide in whatever state arises. Simply rest right there, just as it is in this moment. This is called clarity, emptiness, and movement knowing without following. Whether it's what we call a state of clarity or a state of emptiness or movement, all of these states, in particular, you are clearly aware of them, but you don't follow after them. This is important for practicing calm abiding. Didn't I mention that some elderly people watch children playing over there? They don't need to say, come here, and then follow after the children wherever they play. It's enough just to carefully keep an eye on them within your field of vision at all times. Your mind, whether it's in a state of clarity, emptiness, or movement, or even in a completely bare state, or any other states, maintain awareness there. When we practice, this is something many people didn't understand before. This time, Mifam Rinpoche explained it to all. So there's no need for you to worry. You might think, maybe my practice has gone off track, and I can't practice properly. But your mind doesn't need to be tense, nor does it need to be especially relaxed. It's not really about ignoring absolutely everything either. You need to avoid falling into extreme. Just let your mind dwells in a very relaxed, pure, and natural state. Within that naturalness,
It's not without principles. There are still indeed principles. What are these principles? It's to let the mind rest there in any state. It's like children. As long as they don't run too far away, it's fine. If this is possible, even if they run, they can't go far because they're always within your field of vision. But here, there is a requirement. It's not about generating discursive thoughts yourself either. It's not you and mind generate conceptual thoughts. In this kind of observation, there are two separate minds. But when you are observing, there really is a sense of this. For someone unpracticed, it might not matter. They don't get it. How could a person have two minds? One is a mind like an innocent child, and the other is like an old person. How could there be such a thing? But when you truly practice, you'll experience this. Then the mind, like an elder, should not really have too many discursive thoughts. Basically, we say it observes far away from a distance, not a kind of close discriminating observation. It should be a kind of attention from afar. Just like how an old person pays attention to the bigger picture. In the past, when we herded yaks, as long as they were within this valley, we would not really bother with them whether the herd was playing, sleeping, or moving around. But if they went over the ridge, then we would go and drive them back. Same principle. Our mind is like this too, in many ways. In luminosity, emptiness, or arising thoughts, you really shouldn't follow after them. If you follow after them, it won't work. For example, if there's luminosity and you think this is luminosity, this is emptiness, and you keep clinging to it like that, really, then your practice of calm abiding possibly won't succeed. You should keep knowing, but without following. Then just simply naturally abide in an ordinary mind. In Chan Buddhism, we often talk about the ordinary mind. It's the same in samatha. You just naturally settle into the ordinary mind. This way, you keep familiarizing and practicing over the long term. Then those subtle thoughts and discriminations like chafwat we don't need will eventually naturally be cast aside to their original place. These coarse arising thoughts and discriminations of ours, they will naturally fall away on their own. The true original face of the mind, naturally. Like when water settles naturally, its profound clarity naturally becomes apparent. If we keep at this over the long term, this is a very important pith instruction. Everyone present here, I would like to address you all. Everyone should see if you can practice this teaching from Mipam Rinpoche. I'm not sure if I explained it clearly. Generally speaking, there shouldn't be major errors in the translation. The 5 words verses may be hard, but after I finished explaining, everyone should understand. This principle that you now understand should be remembered and put into practice. Otherwise, as I'm explaining it, you might think you understand it. It should be like that. But after a while, you might just forget all of this. So that's why I'm introducing it to everyone in this straightforward way. This samatha practice is important. And indeed, as long as you practice consistently, there's really nothing you can't do. Otherwise, some of us might be practicing at too high a level. Practicing samatha, they practice to the primordial purity of dzogchen, or the direct cutting practice. For some people, even if just a slight and fleeting thought of luminosity arises in the mind, even for a moment, or a thought of emptiness, they often start to worry at these times. Actually, among the 9 stages of resting the mind, the earlier stages are still quite important indeed. First, settle the mind, and if discursive thoughts arise again, observe them once more. Either gently bring the mind back and calmly and stay in the state of your mind for a moment. Or, as mentioned earlier, and just let it rest peacefully within the clarity. Wherever your mind is, soon as you notice it, just let it gradually settle there. Again, visualize and allow it to settle there. In this way, all the impure discursive thoughts will abandon their place. This is our method of practicing calm abiding in our daily lives. That's all for today's teaching.
Bandara sadardo